Perfect. Seeing all the chat. Nice, nice. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share the full screen. So as I said earlier, good morning. Thank you for everyone being here, waking up from your bed and taking a few steps to your desk to catch us or going outside. I know that the weather's actually been really nice recently after some pretty bad rain, but again, glad to be here. Today, our theme for November is Radical, which was actually chosen by the San Diego chapter. And it's very, amazing to have the speaker that we have today to kind of speak on this topic. And I'll let our newest team member, Maria, talk about her in a little bit. But really to give some background and some of the mandatories we got to do, MailChimp is our global partner for marketing. They're up to some really cool stuff. They actually created this community for freelancers and agencies where they share, all the tips and tricks that they've used along the way. So if it's something that you find useful to your company and your brand, definitely go online to mailchimp.com/andco to check it out. You can learn a lot from other businesses and entrepreneurs that are out there doing similar things to you. As well as our project management global partner, Basecamp, and their email platform, Hey. They actually came out with this series called Shape Up, which is a guide to how they go about doing product development. And I think that's really interesting because there's a lot of lessons to be learned from a brand like Basecamp that's been developed for so many years, and they come up with so many different features that there's a lot of insightful information you can find out from how they go about doing their product development process. Another interesting thing, and we've talked about this before, is our virtual field trips. They're hosted now virtually, and you can go online and see what people are doing across the world. You can join a yoga class, DIY projects, cooking. There's really a lot of interesting creative projects going on, and you can chime in pretty much any week. They have events going on, so go and check it out at the website, and you'll find some interesting stuff to do if you don't have anything exciting for that Friday morning or throughout the week. Another part of Creative Mornings, and we haven't done the virtual manifesto in a while, but I feel like it's fitting to read through it because of how crazy of a year it is. So I'll go ahead and go through it right now. And it really goes with, everyone is creative. This is something that some people don't truly believe in their hearts, but we believe as a community. We believe that a creative life requires bravery and action, honesty and hard work. We're here to support you, celebrate you, and encourage you to take the things you love. We believe in the power of community. We believe in giving a damn. We believe in face-to-face connections, in learning from others, in jazz hands, in virtual claps, and virtual snaps. And we bring together people who are driven by passion and purpose, confident that they will inspire one another and inspire change in neighborhoods and cities around the world. And everyone is welcome. So with that, I'd like to hand it off to Maria, who's going to introduce our speaker, Lisyanet, who's an amazing artist, and I'll let her go ahead and say a little bit more about her.
Thank you, David. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Hope you're doing okay. On today's session, se habla español también, so feel free to throw your questions into the chat. We'll be doing a Q&A after Lisyanet's speech. Hopefully you will like it. So as some of you might have seen our Instagram posts this week, today we have a very special guest. Her name is Lisyanet Rodriguez. She's a Cuban visual artist born in the small town of Espiritu Santo, who moved to Miami 5 years ago. From a very early age, she's been studying painting techniques until she got her degree in fine arts from the Higher Institute of Art in La Habana. And make no mistake, as innocent as she might look, she is fearful with her charcoals and brushes. Her staggering work has been exhibited in Cuba, the US, Portugal, and most recently in Verona, Italy, with her solo exhibition, Silent Singing, which she'll be commenting in a little bit more. So welcome, Lisyanet, to Creative Mornings. How are you today?
Fine, fine. How about you?
Good, good. Where is Lisyanet? Open your mic, Liz.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, now we can hear you.
Good morning, guys. Hello. How are you doing? Nice meeting you. I feel so happy for being with you here today. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share my work with you and at the same time help to enlarge this beautiful community. Thank you to Creative Morning staff for the invitation and Maria for the introduction and help during the process. So, like Maria says, my name is Lisyanet Rodriguez, and I'm a Cuban-born visual artist. I have been living here in Miami City for a little more than 5 years already, and feel more than happy and grateful for being part of Miami artist community. This city has already become my home. So, my friends, I'm gonna be showing you some images of my work and speaking about them at the same time.
Should be able to share your screen now if you want. Perfect.
So first of all, I think I'm gonna tell you a little details about my technique because that's very important. So you get to know better, well, how my work is made. Well, mine is always a mixed media that I work mostly on canvases, and on the top of them, I use a mix of charcoal and acrylic paintings. I used to work a lot also on paper with color pencils and acrylic paintings too. And in the last few years, I have been very interested in developing sculpture because that's a new path I want to conquer for my work. And since the present, the sculptures I have made are also a mixed media that includes textiles and other materials. You are gonna see images of all of that work in advance. But since I believe the particularities of my education and childhood have had a great impact in the way in which I see the world and the artistic creation, I'm gonna be telling you a little about myself first, so you get to know me better. I will start saying as a girl, I used to be a little fragile. I suffered from multiple bone fractures and fractures mostly during my entire childhood. For that reason, on rare occasions, I attended school because I was not able to write as normal kids. So then my parents sent me to attend classes as a listener sometimes, but most of the time I just stay home. As both of my parents worked, the person who took care of me on the everyday was my grandmother. She taught me everything she knew better as a common and normal grandma. Sewing, stitching, knitting. That's how I spent almost all my time as a girl. Embroidering blankets, knitting tablecloths, making clothes for my dolls, and eventually for myself also, because she taught me how to use a sewing machine and all that kind of stuff at a very early age. And it was something I really enjoyed. For me, there was probably only one other activity I loved more, and it was my taste for books. I remember waiting for my mom because she was a librarian, and I remember waiting for her to come after work exactly at 5 p.m. Every day she brought me a new book to read, one for me and one for my dad. The thing is that when I was like 11 years old, and with so much free time, I had almost already read all the books from the children's room of the library. And like she didn't know what else to bring me, she began bringing books from the adults' room. So that's how I began to be obsessed reading gothic and horror novels, like such as classics, for example, such as Mary Shelley's Frankenstein or Dracula. I mean, I also read other books like Mary Poppins sometimes, but the topic is I think my personality gradually formed between those many stories that also have had a great impact in a great influence in my artistic work, because the fascination for these topics eventually led me to find a way to create in which I combine those elements with the shape of my current understanding of beauty. That's why I used to say that the characters and scenarios that I use is a narrative that usually gets contaminated with familiar meanings in some of my work, because I really enjoy the process of discovering and darkening intimate moments that takes me back to things that are important for me but far on my conscience. And for example, this piece, its title is the Giraffe's Fable, and it refers to some stories I used to tell my little nephew on nights before bed because he was fascinated about it. He was like 5 years old at the time I left Cuba. And I always began telling him the beginning of a common fairy tale story like this Spanish one, The Three Golden Hairs of Devil, Los Tres Pelos de Oro del Diablo. But I always ended up inventing some sort of mystery that took place in some medieval environment with fantastic beings that had superpowers, like that lady who had such a long neck that she could see on the top of everything. Just trying to teach him through fantasy how we should be comprehensive and inclusive with all people, even if their physical appearances is like not the most common or beautiful. This is a picture of the work after the process. In that same order, this one, for example, also tells a very personal story. The thing is, my grandfather died very young, and my grandmother, she had this ritual of going every single weekend to the cemetery to take flowers to his grave. And my mother, she loves flowers. Actually, the backyard of our house is full with them. But there's this huge orchid plant that covers the total of a wall in the backyard. It's very beautiful. And every single year at the time the plant was in bloom, my grandmother wanted to take the flowers for her ritual, and my mom doesn't like it because she wanted to see the flowers on the plant. So I grew up seeing this silly discussion between them for the flowers. That fight was kind of fun for me. I was as a girl, even the neighbors smile at them. But however, even when there are some specific examples of my work in which there are so many personal stories in the background, I really don't like my work to be assumed as a personal anecdote. Because, for example, the observation of life and nature are the truly more powerful inspiration for me. I always say, after all, what can be more astounding and impressive than life itself? That's why, and in very general terms, between the most important ideas or concepts in my recent work are, for example, the topic of the transformation or deformation of the body, the pain, the trauma, and its relationship to the physical, but also to the psychological confrontation. So you have an idea how my creative process goes. At the time I approach a new work, I began gathering forms that seem odd to me, and I manipulate them by designing new looks. I create objects that may seem tender to my eyes, but they may end it in something disturbing or monstrous, even abnormal. Then I use these beautiful dresses to cover up the not so beautiful body parts. But the parts that always belong to creations where there is an abundance of deformities, mutations, and I use them because those transformations allow me to show the human or animal body in a very raw beauty. Then the visual result in my work may be disturbing sometimes, but also romantic and melancholic and dramatic, because mine is a work made on contrast. So it is always going to be speaking about life and death, fragility and strength, decay and hope, madness and consolation. So that's why I think that topic of today, speaking radical, fits so perfectly with the way in which I approach the artistic creation. I have the definition of radical over here. It says radical as an adjective means especially of change or action relating to or affecting the fundamental nature of something, far-reaching or thorough, a radical overhaul of the existing regulatory framework. And this is actually always like the strategy I use to build my work, conceptually and formally. And then in my work, you may see how these bodies may be withering in the inside, but in the outside, they're always gonna be luxurious and beautiful, because my intention is always gonna be to protect, to inspire feelings of love and gentleness and kindness, but also to reflect non-traditional notions of beauty, to provoke reflections around our sensitivity to the suffering and the violence, because I really think we live in kind of times of serious environmental degradation, for example, where toxic contamination, transgenic crops, genetic modifications, those are realities of life today, and I have an standing position as an artist before those topics that I think really matter to every single individual regarding the place we live in. So this is a series of color pencils on paper. Title is Blooming, and it's a perfect example of how these tensions in my work. This picture belonged to what was my first exhibition here in Miami. It was like 4 years ago at Kendall Art Center. And something very shocking happened to me that night of the opening. I was, in some moment of the night, I was at the second floor of the gallery, kind of hiding or resting for a few minutes. And there was this woman from the public. She was standing on my side. She turned on to me and asked me if I knew who the artist of the show was. I told her it was me. She was looking at this piece. Then when I told her I was the artist, she just began crying. And I didn't know what to do, because I didn't know her and she was on strange, just crying in front of me. So I asked her her name and thanked her for coming to see the exhibition. She didn't say much more, just goodbye. But after 4 years, I still remember her face. I felt really very weird at the same moment because of what happened. But later on night, I was kind of happy because I felt I achieved what is a goal for me as an artist. I mean, this woman would have probably been sad for something, but I felt my work moves her emotions in some way, and that's something I need. I mean, I need my work to communicate to any kind of people, also to serve or contribute in some way to society. Otherwise, I feel I don't have any reason to be an artist and I should just dedicate myself to something else. So title of this piece is Elastic, and it's a charcoal on canvas. Also, this one is elastic. They are part of a series. Regarding to that same idea before, there's a phrase of Tim Burton I really like. It says, "One person craziness is another person reality." And I just keep thinking all the time how true that idea could be. These are also other color pencils on paper. Actually, they also have paintings on their acrylic paintings. It is just that you're not gonna be able to see them on the pictures of my work because the acrylics that I use are fluorescent. So you're just gonna be able to see those details if you see the work in person because of the transparency of the colors. They belong to a series named Dress Up. Title of this one is The White Rain, La Lluvia Blanca in Spanish. And it turns out I was looking at my Facebook page when I saw someone had made a post with images of a woman who had like lumps all over her body. A very weird genetic condition that affects the skin and suffers one in every 1,000 people, but in different degrees of severity. I was so impressed with the images. I kept days dreaming with them until I decided to make a piece that reflects my feelings about it. I thought how difficult social life could be for a person with this physical condition, even for the family. So I made the White Rain, a doll that has multiple arms and legs, like animal arm and legs, and it faces full color with these beautiful white pearls that in a metaphorical way they fall on the top of the tiny body and also the background of this object, symbol of beauty and innocence. This one is Ninja. There are some images of the process. This piece belongs to a triptych of canvases. The thing is, mermaids have always been very intriguing to me. And at the time I knew the legend of Ninja in Japan, I just fall in love with this folklore Japanese monster. And Ninja is a Japanese mermaid version, but very different to the Occidental. The Japanese folklore describes this monster as a giant fish with the face of a human, the mouth of a monkey, very small teeth like those of a fish. Its scales are golden, and the sounds it emits are very soft. Legend says that anyone who eats ninja meat will have youth and eternal beauty, but also catching it would bring terrible storms and misfortunes to entire cities. So it was a very interesting idea to me. I was thinking how even such an ancient legend could have a part of reality because there are so many elements and physical anomalies in the world that remind me to these mythical creatures, the perfect, beautiful, and deserving character. Since for me, one of the delights of art is its ability to be simultaneously beautiful and troubling, I really like to place my work within this contrast because I feel this ambiguous sensation of pull and push absolutely fascinating. So guys, this is the last example I bring today. I'm really very excited to know your opinion.
Wow, shake your hands if you like it. Thank you so much for that. I love the stories. I think we all love your notion of beauty and the different elements that compose your artwork. I think it's very interesting, the speech behind these amazing paintings and sculptures that we've seen today. So thank you so much for sharing the behind the scenes with us today, Liz. So, well, we have still some time for questions. So if anybody has a question, you have the artist right here. Make sure to write them on the chat and I'll make sure to pass it along. In the meantime, I think my first question for you would be, how has changing locations affected your work, Liz? You started working since a very early age in Cuba, and then since then you've come a long way, and now you're living in Miami. You have exposed in different parts of the world, but living here, how has it changed your work? How has it affected it?
Well, actually, it has affected my work a lot because it is a completely different context. At the time I lived Cuba, at the time I lived in Cuba, actually, I was more focused in trying to understand how, it was another time, and I was focused on trying to understand what was the media in which I was working in. I mean, I was selecting my technique and things that I really prefer to use for my work. It was another kind of step for my work. Here in Miami, I have developed what I consider my most important work. Actually, if you see my website, you are gonna see by years what I was doing in Cuba was a work made just in black and white, for example, without colors. So there are so many changes that I have found in this living in this country and in this city, because it's a normal process in the creative process of an artist. It is, or it should be always growing. I mean, in technique terms, but also in conceptual terms. And of course, the context have had a great impact in my work. I mean, the access to internet and to information that I had known while I was living in Cuba, it's like a bigger open world for me. It has been in that way, the experience of living in this country.
Cool. So the second question I had for you is, well, we've seen a retrospective, but I know you've been working on other stuff. What's your next step? What's your next plan? What are you cooking right now? Do you have anything? You've been doing sculptures. You've switched from painting to sculptures. Are you thinking on doing anything different the next time?
Okay. Well, I'm cooking all the time. It's just work. I just keep working all the time, planning to make another show. For me, a new show is just a new step in my work, because the way in which I assume is that for next show I have to do not something different, but it must to implicate a step in my work in terms of concept, but also formally. I mean, I have been planning to make a sculpture in a very serious way, because that's a new path I want to conquer for my work. And on my next show, for example, I have been planning to make that part of my work like a little more strong. Probably in the next 3 or 4 shows, it is going to be just a show for a sculpture, or just a show for color pencils on paper. So I'm always thinking on the future and how am I going to be exhibiting my new work in the way that people could see that I have been giving a new step, that my work is just not in the same place you see it last year or the last year before. So for me, it is always that, keep working and growing and showing like I'm moving forward.
I see. We the concept of radical when we were preparing for this presentation today. I remember we had a couple of conversations and we talked about how everyone tend to associate and we posted on Instagram too, like you mentioned in one of your posts this week, how people tend to associate the radical concept directly with the activism and with the political side of it, which is like the most common known version of radical for us. But today you've shown us that radical basically is associated with change and changing things that are fundamental. And in your case, that change is mostly portrayed in your notion of beauty and how we have a very standard way of seeing beauty, while you are portraying it in a very different way where there's room for a lot more than perfection, and rather you include other elements that are a struggle between what is not perfect, what is monstrous, what is deformity, all those stuff. How do you think artists could also portray radicalism, so to speak, in that sense? Or what advice would you give them to be more radical in their work?
I think the first advice I'm so young and I'm still trying to find myself all the time. But if I could be giving an advice to another artist, I could say just focus on yourself. Focus on yourself and on your own work. I have feel every time that I see a single artist that I love, it is just that they have been so focused on their personal story and on their personal way to see the world without looking nothing else. That's the way I consider this the only way you can be original, and that's something so important for me as an artist. I mean, for me, every single artist that I love is pretty original in his or her own way because of her special way to see something. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. It doesn't matter if you are a political or a performance artist or a musician. But when you find an individual who's singular, that becomes something important for everyone. Luis Bourget used to say that phrase that tell your story and you are gonna become important for people in some way because they are gonna see something on you, because you're gonna be able to show something to people that probably they could learn for it or don't, but you're gonna be offering something to the world and to people that could be useful for them, or at least it is gonna be on your intention. So for me, that's the most important for an artist. Just try to focus on your own work and not looking on influences of the context or in what any kind of or other artist is doing or not, because you have to try to be yourself all the time. That's what it is gonna bring originality to your work.
That's great. I think we have time for another question here. I see in the chat. So tell us a little bit more about your training. We believe that your technique is amazing. Like we all seen your pictures and your sculptures, and you have a very, very developed technique. Did you study? How did you get prepared? How was that process on the technique that you used? I know you took some painting classes where you were little, but can you tell us a little bit more about the type of experiments and why did you decide to mostly use charcoal and acrylic on your paintings and big formats? I'm very surprised by the formats because I know you like big size formats. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay. Actually, I graduated from painting techniques, also from ceramics. That was my that were my studies at the Academy of Art. But I was in some moment in which I had to decide what I liked more, what I loved more, and what was the visual result I wanted to create my work. So I have always loved more drawing more than the painting techniques. Then I began to make a work, like I said, just in black and white, just using pencils and charcoal mostly. Then I decided to begin to incorporate some colors in my work. But mostly in my work, you are gonna see how those colors are applied in a way they are very soft, like not more like a deep painting, just like a watercolor in some ways, because I really want my work that has this special part in which you can see the drawing as the predominant part. That's because I have seen that I mean, most of the artists use the drawing just as a step in the creation. Sculptures use it just before the sculpture, and painters use it before the making the painting. But I have decided my work be mostly on pencils and mostly on drawing, because that's something really weird today, or special in some way, also because I like it, and because it's like print. Everyone thinks that print is like less than other other artistic activities. And for me, drawing is such a special thing, and taking it to a big canvas it has been really very difficult, because canvases are like, for example, more adequate for paintings than for drawing. So it has been really very difficult for me trying to find the perfect way to show my work and show a drawing at that scale as if we're a painting or mixing with a painting. It has been really very difficult, the technique. But at this moment, I feel just still experimenting all the time, and also beginning to include more and more color in my work. But mostly I want to show drawing, because it's like the thing I prefer, the visual is all I prefer in my work.
That leads us to our next question, which is, what is your ideal environment for creating art? How do you get inspired? How's your, like in your studio, what are those elements that you think are perfect whenever you're starting a new work?
Okay, for me, inspiration is everywhere. Actually, it's in life, it's in everything I see or impress me in some way, even a picture that I see, or even some person I speak with that tells me something that could be interesting. Right now, it is just that my work takes so long to really say that. It's just like I have so many ideas to make. It's just a matter of having time to conclude them, or having time to make all those steps I want to do. I mean, right now I'm working in painting, but I want to do sculpture, and I have to wait to finish the painting I'm doing to begin to make sculptures and also color pencils. So for me, it is always just trying to pick up things that matters to me as an individual, even more than an artist. For me as an individual, what matters or worries me about myself, but about people, about the world we live in, about things that I could think matter to everyone, because my work must serve in some way. I feel it that way.
There's somebody asks here a very interesting question that says, do you ever include backgrounds in your paintings? I know that from the paintings we saw today, you always have like a specific subject or character at the front. But I don't know if you ever include backgrounds in your paintings, or if there's a reason for it.
Yes, not until the present, because it's like my characters has so many details on them because of the dresses that I use and because of the lace and all that kind of stuff, that it fits perfect for me just leaving a clean background. And also because the color of the background is very important, because it also tells something or keeps relating to the work. Like for example, in Ninja, that blue of the background, I couldn't just imagine some other noise on the background at this moment. But right now, for example, I'm beginning to use also textiles on the top of my canvases. I mean, it's something I'm doing just right now in the piece I'm working in. So it is just gonna be seen in the next show. Probably I'm gonna be embroidering also on the top of my dresses. And probably in the future, I'm gonna be also working in the backgrounds. I'm thinking on that right now. But it is gonna be like step by step, little by little, because right now I feel I have to keep doing it in this way. I really feel it like that. So it is gonna happen in the future, probably.
Good. I guess my last question to you is, as we all know, we are approaching a new phase of the world after this COVID thing. It's still going on, and it's going to be for quite some time there. But I wanted to ask you, how do you think this new era or this new time, it's going to affect the artistic world, both on the business side, but also like artistically for you? How do you think that's going to transform this new post-COVID times? Is that going to affect your work at all? Do you think it's going to impact you somehow, or do you think like you can manage and keep telling like the same stories you have been doing so far?
Okay, well, of course, kind of situation like this one affects. I don't think it is gonna affect my creation, but it is gonna affect or probably could affect the way in which I could show my creation. For example, I was gonna be in kind of show right now in Italy, and it is virtual. It was gonna be in such a beautiful building, and now it's virtual only. So my work is a work that visual arts, you have to see them in person, because a picture doesn't show at all the details, and the visual result, you're not gonna be seeing it in the total way if you see it in a picture. So of course, right now there are so many galleries that are making virtual events, or they are doing a show with 5 or 4 people every 1 hour. So it's something weird. It is gonna be affecting the way in which you show your work, but not my artistic creation, but because I'm really focused on working all the time on myself, on my studio, and that's something I do because I like it, because I enjoy it.
That's very interesting. I think our last question in the chat would be, given that we're already reaching our ending point here, would be, do you have a way to track your ideas? How do you track them? How do you said you have like a lot of ideas the whole time, and sometimes you struggle to even start the first one. What do you do with the rest of them so you don't lose them? Do you have like notebooks? Where do you keep them? What system do you have?
I just lose them. I just stop thinking on things, because it takes me so long to make one piece that it doesn't have any. I just keep focus on the future, like I said. The trying to make sculpture, for example, for me right now, like it's something new and something so different. I just keep focus on that and leave the painting like in a side, or the color pencils, and at the time I'm gonna be working on them, I just focus all my mind on that specific topic, because it takes me long to make one piece, so I just want to enjoy it.
I totally get what you mean. I think that's a very good advice. Sometimes when you have way too many stuff, you don't actually get anything done. So it's better just to...
You're gonna be focused on another topic. You have to focus on the process at the time, and just leave everything else to the future.
So I think that's excellent advice. Just focus on one and go for it until the end, until you've seen it, it's fulfilled, and then don't even think about the ones you lost along the way. Well, I do want to thank you a lot. David or Malik, I don't know if you guys want to wrap up here, but I just want to thank you once and everyone for being here. David, you want to jump in?
Yeah, no, thank you guys. Amazing work. I think based on from what everyone's writing in the chat, you could tell that everyone appreciates it. It's beautiful work. I wish that we could see it in person, because we could tell that there's a lot more intricacies and details to that. Other than that, I mean, we haven't set the date for the next event, but thank you everyone for joining. Stay tuned for us announcing the next event. If I don't know if anyone saw it, if you guys want to follow each other, you want to connect beyond the event, you can change your names to your username or drop it in the chat and start connecting, so that we can build this community beyond these events and stay connected in between them. But other than that, that's it for me. Thank you guys.
Thank you, everyone.
You guys have a good rest of your day.
Hope you enjoy it. See you soon.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye, everyone.